When I was a kid, I was really into fan songs. And I mean all of them. Big fan of The Living Tombstone, Try Ninja, Oreo, Smosh, oh my god Smosh. I can keep listing these off forever I think. I watch them all the time. DA Games bought these basic songs. Fan songs controlled my childhood. I listened to these on Pandora. I went through using Pandora to listen to these. I messed up because of that. But out of all of these, one was always on top. One of the greatest musical artists of our generation. And their name?
AJ! I'm AJ.
And there's like 4 other people, but AJ is the face of it. And together, they made Random Encounters. Random Encounters is a YouTube channel making peak video game musicals. But what motivated their marvelous mastery of mesmerizing melodic musicals? Well, it all started when AJ looked into the eyes of the devil. That's right, Dan Schneider. AJ before YouTube worked as a production assistant for iCarly and Victorious, showing he had experience in the TV industry, so he knew how to make stuff look nice and whatnot. So it was only a little bit of a surprise when their first musical comes out and it looks like a VHS that was found at a crime scene, but then the second one comes out and it looks so nice. It's in 1080p instead of the last one's 480. The use of green screen is implemented quite well and adds this chaotic atmosphere, and gosh, the cinematography is actually really good and visually interesting. From then on, they would go on to make many more musicals. And something I didn't realize until writing this video, a ton of other series and videos as well. Bloopers, vlogs, gameplay videos, they had everything, including connections. There were videos with MatPat, Nate Wants to Battle, and a pre-FNAF Markiplier. I'm not quite sure when they blew up, but all their videos from back then have obscene amounts of views. But my introduction, and in my honest opinion, the best and most iconic one they ever put out was FNAF the Musical. I've watched the full 5-part series of videos at least 20 times. It's an addiction. The supercut is one of my favorite videos of all time. Let me show you why this is so special to me. Before we get into this, I'll be basing this discussion on the complete series version. The complete series has a few scenes not in the original, and also subtitles, and also the ending, so it's a little important, you know. The first night starts off with Phone Guy greeting the new security guard.
Hi, I'm Phone Guy. Pleasure to meet you. I'd like to leave a few quick words.
Phone Guy doesn't have a voice credit, at least until Night 5 where MatPat is credited, but that's probably because he actually appears in live action with a noticeably different voice. So I have absolutely no clue who plays him. I found this out while editing, it's just Foxy's voice actor. The security guard who I mentioned earlier is played by Markiplier, and god is his casting absolutely perfect. Fluff off Josh Hutcherson, you could never be him. Mark in his great debut as the security guard completely ignores the Phone Guy talking about how the animatronics get a bit active at night.
Freddy's friends can be a bit active. Don't be afraid though, they
That's
just like to say hi.
Absurd.
To immediately get scared of the animatronics being active at night. Nice one, Mark. The animatronics in question being Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And everyone here does a really good job. Bonnie is voiced by AJ, and his voice just fits like a glove.
You guys, open the door! You're gonna blow a fuse!
It's hard to explain, but it's perfect. Foxy is voiced by another Random Encounters freaking collaborator, David King, who was around since the second ever upload playing Professor Oak. He has a horror podcast, which is pretty neat. Here's where it gets kind of crazy. Chica is voiced by Sarah Ann Williams, who you might know for voicing Hello Kitty in some newer Hello Kitty shows, Nanan Jakuzure in Kill la Kill, and my personal favorite role, Sayaka Miki from Madoka Magica, which I'll never be able to unhear now.
Instead of saying thanks, you sit there calling her a bitch.
I don't watch a ton of anime, but it's really funny that Sarah has voiced characters that I actually know and care about. Freddy is voiced by Xander Mobus, and if that name doesn't immediately ring a bell, let me tell you some stuff he's worked on. The conductor from The Hat in Time, the main protagonist of Detective Pikachu, the best villain of the week from JoJo, Terrence T. D'Arby, Clown in Haunt the House Terror Town, Joker from Persona 5, and the Smash announcer. Game! This cast is stacked. Where were we? Oh yeah, 56 seconds in. Mark being terrified of the animatronics, and the animatronics coming to Mark to say hi, Mark immediately assumes, for whatever reason, that they're gonna shove him into an animatronic suit.
Or maybe they'll all stuff me inside a Phasma suit.
Here's Mark next to an animatronic for reference. Mark seals the door to the office and the animatronics send Foxy into the vent to go get him. And during that period, Mark sits down for an indeterminate amount of time to do some arts and crafts and makes this mangle mask, which Foxy gets attracted to and tries to rizz up. And I assume this is a reference to FNAF 2, where Withered Foxy doesn't react to the mask, which recontextualizes this jump scare, going from Foxy lunging at you to kill you, to Foxy lunging at you to give you a big kiss on the lips. There's this cool scene where the power goes out and all the animatronics sing over a rendition of the Toreador March.
Because I love you through and through.
Your singing sucks.
Wow, tough crowd.
Which I feel is a necessary inclusion in a FNAF musical. After that, the musical is basically over. Except for one last scene with AJ Purple Guy, with some of the best foreshadowing ever seen in a piece of media.
By the way, how are you getting so many hours? You're scheduled 4 more nights this week.
What?
I think Night 1 is great at showing off the animatronics. While Markiplier is a big part in this, I can't help but feel like Freddy and company really stole the show. All of the animatronic voices are really nice. Xander Mobus' Freddy voice will forever be the voice of Freddy in my mind.
Seal the doors, hit the lights.
Hey new guy, are you alright?
Sarah Williams brings this hard to describe energy to Chica that makes everything she says super goofy.
Oops. You were right, Freddy. The kitchen camera's dead. Now.
And AJ as Bonnie, as I mentioned before, just fits.
Why does it smell like blood and mucus?
That's our natural scent.
I have this idea of what Bonnie sounds like in my head, and honestly, his voice isn't far off. Especially with the differing designs from the animatronics to the puppets, it just works. I also love how Foxy doesn't say any actual words, he just mumbles.
Please, Foxy, leave.
It just fits in with the animatronic. The animatronics have these Barney-like character archetypes. And in general, they act like kid show characters, and it makes it so much funnier when Markiplier hates these things with a passion. Mark gets a good amount of focus in this one. Nothing crazy, you know. But the next night, he gets all of it, so let's get to that. Markiplier wakes up the next day exactly how I do. Full of hatred and ready to pull the arsenal out of my closet. This shot of an alarm clock lives rent-free in my head. Why did they track the time onto the clock? If they knew they were going to track the time onto it, why did they make the shot handheld? Did they record this with the wrong time so they had to mask out the actual time and add it back in? Why didn't they just take a still frame and work off that? Here's my remake of this shot. It still looks bad, but it took so much less time than whatever this would have taken. And on the topic of weird editing choices, in the beginning of this video, a couple times it just zooms in, like really weirdly. I wonder if they had something sneak in the frame they had to edit out. Anyways, add that one to the CinemaSins counter. This entire song is just Mark getting ready to brutally murder the animatronics. He goes from in the first one being absolutely terrified to the most confident person ever now that he has a gun. Wake up call, buddy. From what we can glean, these things are made out of metal. That gun isn't doing anything. Are these guys meant to be made out of metal? Can't tell if the animatronics are a point of view thing. Like, we see them as puppets, but they're really animatronics in their world. Or they are in a universe where the animatronics are little puppets. There's evidence for both. You can see posters and drawings that depict animatronics like how they are in the games, but at the same time, they can be thrown away and threatened with guns, so I don't know. I might be overanalyzing this. No, I'm not. What do Markiplier and Peppino from Pizza Tower have in common? That's right, shooting up a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza establishment. Mark shoots a janitor, and Mark in between a single shot goes from complete shock to confusion.
You're not Foxy.
I also find it funny how Mark didn't know there was a janitor there. Giving the benefit of the doubt, probably wasn't there the first night, but at the same time, I feel like they would disclose that, you know, before he got the job. Mark gets escorted out of the building by police officers, and there's a shot where you can see an interior that looks vaguely like a pizzeria. But what's confusing is that all the interiors of the pizzeria, excluding the office, are 3D models, and the characters are green screened in. Did they make a set just to not use it? Or was it just set up for that scene? I don't. Why?
You don't get it. You don't get it. They're animatronics. They're children that were stuffed into animal suits, and they're trying to kill everybody.
He knew. He knew there were kids in the animatronics, but still tried to harm them. Mark is able to escape, but I'm gonna be honest, I think he should have been locked up for that one. That was messed up. And after there's this scene where he's dyeing his hair. Why did they add that? It adds actually nothing to the story. And I'm no hair dye expert, but I feel like you shouldn't dry it off with a white towel. I feel like it would stain. But actually, to be fair, at that point, why would you care? He also gets a haircut in between this scene and the last. I can just imagine him going to a barber, like, while he's still wanted. It's like, Night 2 has to be my favorite. The concept of Markiplier wanting to turn Freddy Fazbear into Swiss cheese instead of just quitting his job is, like, objectively hilarious. And the tone is so dramatic for no reason. Plus, something I haven't mentioned, Markiplier's a great singer for no reason. Well, there is a reason. In an old Matthias video, some of you have probably not heard that name in years, Markiplier briefly talks about taking singing lessons.
Never have I ever taken singing lessons. Damn it. Not something I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that.
He only talks about it briefly, but this was the only source I could find, so his voice is just so nice for singing. It really makes this song as good as it is. I really wish that he sang more seriously, you know? You know that movie is gonna be in Iron Lung? Since there's no dialogue in the original game, I hope they take some creative liberties and make it a musical. Wait, does Random Encounters have a Iron Lung musical? AJ, get on that. That would be fire. Shout out to Markiplier for being the GOAT. And Night 3 has my second GOAT, so let's cover that one. Night 3 is mostly used for introducing two new characters, Nathan Wants to Battle and Springtrap. Nate being a former Freddy Fazbear's employee, coming back because he's a brokey, and Freddy's is desperate for a security guard. I wonder why. Nate mentions that it's been 7 years since he's worked at this place, and also he's only working there because YouTube isn't paying him enough. The animatronics find a box.
What could this be? It wasn't here before, it's bigger than me.
Maybe it's a big box.
One addressed from Scott Cawthon to Purple Guy. Put a pin in this, I'll bring it up later. Actually, don't bring this up later. I actually forgot to mention this again. Springtrap escapes from his box and takes out Bonnie. They messed up the layering on the subtitles here. Chica's subtitles supposed to be, you know, over the musical, but they flubbed it up, and it's just awkwardly cut off. One sin. The next shot shows Chica in the kitchen, but weirdly, it's in an actual kitchen instead of a 3D set. But not like a restaurant kitchen, it's the type of kitchen you would have in your house. I don't know if I should give this a cinema sin for this one because, you know, they put an effort of it being a real set, but at the same time, it looks nothing like a restaurant kitchen. 1/2 sin. Springtrap goes around and takes all the animatronics out, until Nate tries to close the door and gets jumped by Springtrap.
That's weird. Usually that only happens when...
Springtrap jumps through this balloon wall, which, come to think about it, is probably really hard to maintain, having to reinflate the balloons every couple of days, or just outright replace them when they start sagging. On top of that, this is an employee back room, one that guests most likely can't enter. Well, why would they go through the effort? This fight scene between Nate and Springtrap is one of the best in fiction. You can't even argue that.
No! Please don't kill me! I haven't even caught up on Steven Universe yet!
Surely this line won't have any serious ramifications on the timeline of the series. Like, surely not, you know. I love how the vent cover was the thing that took Springtrap out. Like, Nick could have lightly punched him, and he would have won that altercation, like, easily.
He says he hid in there when Springtrap tried to stuff him in a Freddy Fazbear suit.
Oh, that's horrible.
After that, well, mind you, Springtrap is knocked out on the floor. They're completely dumbfounded on what to do with him. I personally would have tied him up and carefully disassembled him till he couldn't move, but no. Bonnie decides that he can talk now, even though his mouth is taped shut.
The puppet was the only one who could defend us.
Now with him gone, there's no one to stop Springtrap.
Well, I know a guy.
And he postulates that they should get Mark involved, seemingly because he has guns. Guns that would have been confiscated as evidence by the police. It cuts to them driving in the middle of the night, presumably directly after the last scene. Except it's still nighttime, and a small shot in between shows it's now morning. So did Nate just go home and come back to pick up the animatronics? Or did they just wait in the car for a day and then go find Mark? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Also, they didn't bring Springtrap with them, despite them easily being able to put him in the truck. A cardboard box was able to hold him. I don't see why a trunk or something similar wouldn't. Instead, they just leave him at the pizzeria, which immediately backfires because AJ finds him and unties him. Really quick, I want to talk about Nate Wants to Battle. I used to listen to him all the time. He was one of my goats along with Try Hard Ninja and Mando Pony. He created a lot of songs that are just bangers. While going back through some of his old songs, I came to realize how many of his old songs I still hum despite not knowing their specific origin. For example, Promise Me, an Undertale fan song that I hum all the time and did not realize it came from Nate until like right now as of writing. In the FNAF realm though, I also listen to like all of these. Mangled has to be the greatest, it's iconic. I was a bit scared to go back to it, partially because I don't want my parents to look at my screen and think I'm gay, and also because I didn't know if I would like it after being so far removed from that period where I listened to it. And honestly, it holds up better now than it did back then. This part is stuck in my head now. And a small side tangent, you know that period of the Dark Ages where, you know, everyone was wearing masks? Remember how it was so much harder to recognize people? Well, it really just hit me now how hard it is, because I never noticed that this was MatPat until I looked in the description. Do you think they explored each other's bodies? Night 4 starts with Nate sending in the animatronics for a little bit of breaking and entering, while he stays in the car and fends off Springtrap with this series version of Balloon Boy. And may I say, this version might be better than the actual FNAF 3 luring mechanic. I always thought it was a bit weird that they could just play children laughing from anywhere in the attraction. Having it be a little RC drivable robot works a lot better in my opinion. -1 sin. Also, why doesn't Nate go in with them? I feel like having an actual person come in with the animatronics would make it a lot less dangerous for everyone. Mark has a history with guns. In general, this night is just the animatronics chasing Mark around his house. You know, the one that the police probably knows he lives at. Is Mark dumb? He doesn't know that the police dropped his case due to negligence. Why did Mark go to his actual house? Back on topic, I got sidetracked. It's mostly just that and Nate distracting Springtrap with the Balloon Boy robot. Not much happens story-wise, but this one is elevated to one of the best only based on the amazing duet from Mark and Nate. Their voices are very different, Mark's being a lot lower and smoother.
Something's breathing out beyond the door.
And Nate's being a lot higher pitched and more trained for singing. Lets him hit those higher notes really well.
Just focus on
There's a nice clean contrast, which really works when they're singing together. Mark gets Freddy at knife point and Springtrap knocks the antenna off of Balloon Boy, which allows Springtrap to brutalize him.
No! Yeah! Jesus!
With nothing to do, Nate actually enters Mark's house, which he should have done at the beginning, and de-escalates the situation. Mark is pretty apprehensive about the whole idea of going back to Freddy's to take out the killer animatronic, but is convinced by Nate. Overall, Night 4 is one of the best. It sounds like it was gonna say fuck you here, but they cut it out.
Fine.
Now huddled up in Nate's house, Mark and Nate start talking. This shot always bothered me, and I finally figured out why. There are multiple different sets of puppets with varying length bodies. These are the small ones, but in Night 4 we get some good shots of the full arm ones.
You know, laying low is usually done quietly.
They are nocturnal.
They are not nocturnal. If we assume Freddy's is open, when would they get the chance to sleep? They're awake during the night to play,
Midnight already?
time to play.
and would be awake during the day to perform. I'm confused, I'm confused. They start talking about the animatronics. When the subject of the person Mark killed is brought up, Mark instantly uses the fact that he killed someone as intimidation.
Don't make fun of me. I killed a guy.
He was just sweeping the floor.
I think Mark might be a bad person, I'm gonna be real. We also get the reveal that the guy isn't actually dead.
I actually heard that guy's in stable condition.
Really? I put 3 rounds in his chest.
Wrong. That was 5 shots, buddy. The gang drives out to Freddy's to take care of Springtrap, and they park diagonally in a handicap spot. That seems completely unnecessary when they already spent all day just relaxing at Nate's house. It's not like they're in a rush, just park normally, please. The gang starts to devise a plan. Mark brings out that if Springtrap is really made by spring locks, they could take him down with water. Except how does he know that exactly? The fact that he knew that confused Nate.
Is he actually made of spring locks?
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine he's a super fan or anything. He hates the animatronics, and I can't believe he looked into the company before he got the job. Because, as we'll see later, Freddy's has a long line of mysterious deaths there. Can't imagine he would apply if he knew that. But anyways, they conclude that the best way to bring down Springtrap is by using fire extinguishers to activate the spring locks. But spring lock suits make it so the animatronic part of the suit activates, and whatever, I don't care. Almost all the fire extinguishers throughout the building are gone, so all the animatronics split up to go find one. Chica ends up finding it in the kitchen, but ends up being chased by Springtrap into the office. They trap him with a rope and try the fire extinguisher. Womp womp.
Well, that didn't go as planned.
It's revealed that this was a huge plot by AJ Purpleman to get more hours at Freddy's, in which Mark and Nate immediately replied,
Look, I didn't even want this job. No offense.
And I'm kind of wanted for attempted murder.
So, you're just letting me have the night shift?
and all their conflict is resolved and everything is well and good. Who is it? Matthew Patrick. Oh, sorry, I mean a phone guy, Matt Pat. Scott Coffin.
None of us would probably be together tonight if you just listened to what I told you about the animatronics on the first night.
Don't be afraid.
Wait, so he did hear that? Mark's gonna make me go insane. Oh my god. Mark lets Springtrap at Phone Guy, and he starts messing him up. Matthew Patrick lights himself on fire with his flamethrower chainsaw, and the group make their escape. Presumably there's a cut shot after the scene of the gang needed to call an Uber because Nate's car was towed. We're parking diagonally in a handicap. They probably cut that for time, you know. It cuts forward in time. Nate gets a call from Phone Guy who is alive somehow, but in prison. Phone Guy talks about how he's going to kill Nate once he's out, but Nate is a sigmoid and throws that phone away. We then see the animatronics starting up a game studio and Markiplier living the good life by the pool. The end. This ending was perfect in my opinion. It feels like it wrapped off all of the characters and let them enjoy life a little. Except AJ, he's dead as hell. The song feels climactic. The setup of AJ being the villain was actually foreshadowed quite well, and Matt Pat showing up at the end is just a really fun surprise that Kidney loved. Matt Pat is such a theater kid, so his performance is so loud and bombastic. I love it so much. Nights 1 through 5 were made as one continuous story. It has a beginning, middle, and end, and was made with the intention of being complete. But as you would guess, when Random Encounters makes musicals about all mascot horror games basically, it would be kinda silly for them not to make more when the new FNAF games come out. Just because they made their original series before the 5th game was out. So they kept making more, 4 to be exact. Do they hold the candle to the originals? Let's find out. I'll be going through them pretty quick, I don't want to spend a ton of time on each one. Blood and Tears is a weird case. It was made only a couple of months after the complete series, and it feels as if they were going for a completely different tone. Almost like it was trying to separate itself from the original series. And, you know, do something different. And we gotta be honest, I don't think the different worked. It takes a much slower, more somber approach, where it's just one continuous song from Baby. It doesn't have that same energy and humor, it's played completely seriously in fact. And while I think that's an interesting direction to go, to have that come from this,
Where Foxy go?
He's in there!
that was a bit odd. And also, like, this really bothered me as a kid, and I can kind of see why. Baby is an actual person in makeup rather than a puppet, and when you're expecting a puppet to pop up and, you know, start singing, it's weird for a real human to be there. Although, one cool thing, this acts as a prequel to the original series, showing AJ before he got transferred to Freddy's. It's cool, but this one doesn't have much else of substance, you know. I'm doing this one out of order so I can save 2 for last. The Monster in Your Head is a certified banger. It follows Vanessa,
Alexandra?
that had changed that name for some reason, making trash in the game from Pizzeria Simulator. But Alexandra is in some sort of VR simulation. It's a bit unclear, but she's been seeing fan favorite character Vanny. It's not super heavy on the story, but still gives us some cool hints and whatnot to what's going on. And Phone Guy makes an appearance, which is cool. It's mostly carried by its performances though. Alexandra and Vanny both did amazing jobs, and it's genuinely re-listenable outside its connection to FNAF. One of the best musically, and might be a controversial opinion, but at least in the top 5. Ground Zeroes is a flat-out prequel to the events of the first series, showing Michael Afton getting promoted from lousy employee to manager of the pizzeria. Why did they name him Michael, but Vanessa got Alexandra? What's the deal with that? Whatever, Michael is played by CG5. I don't watch him, and I know he gets a good amount of hate for making, you know, Talking Ben songs or whatever, but he seems really chill. Just like MatPat, he's a complete theater kid, so he just sells the role perfectly. Just the way he sings conveys ambition and emotion.
This is the time to see what dreams are made of. This is the fight I can't afford to lose.
It's actually really cool. Throughout this musical, we see as Mike salvages more animatronics, like the ones from the original series. They also salvage my favorite animatronic ever, Orville Elephant, and they give him a recurring gag. I'm only lying a little bit when I say this earned it a few ranks in you know, my imaginary tier list in my mind. -2 soon. I also like how he looks like one of those bootleg Garfield plushes. It really adds to it. The video ends with Michael getting killed by a pan stand. It's almost a shame that CG5 won't be in any more of these. I think he did a really good job. In the final ending stinger, it shows Nathan Wants to Battle being called to work at Freddy's.
Hello? Is this Mr. Wants to Battle? Oh, perfect. I've got some good news.
Let's do the math here. Let's assume that Nate, the character, is the same age as Nate in real life, which at the time of Night 3's release would have been 26. And in the beginning of the musical, it establishes that this takes place in 1987, meaning Nate would have been -2 years old. But who's to say the originals, you know, take place in 2015, the release year of FNAF the Musical?
Please don't kill me! I haven't even caught up on Steven Universe yet!
Steven Universe came out in 2013, thus making the oldest Nate could be 0 years old. On top of that, Nate says it's been 7 years since he's worked at there, which means he was working at Freddy's from birth until he was 19. It's not super important, but once I noticed it, it was almost hard to miss. Oh yeah, Ground Zeroes was also pretty good. Web of Lies is a direct sequel to Ground Zeroes, following Mike's sister Elizabeth as she tries to uncover the murders at Freddy Fazbear's. In the beginning, we see a lot of MatPat, and him not wearing the mask, it's like actually him, and his performance here is even better than in the original series. When he yells, it sounds like really real, and it kind of scared me.
Copied over.
I don't want them copied over!
MatPat Coffin Guy is being investigated for the murders at Freddy's. And rather than cleaning up the pizzeria as there's too much evidence, he decides to put it on Foxy and create a hoax known as the Bite of 87. This one sees the return of the animatronics, like for realsies, not just cameos. They create a rescue team to save Foxy. Elizabeth, on the other hand, finds a strange file pertaining to Mike's case and accidentally unleashes Glitch Trap, which drops the bomb that MatPat's character is the uncle of Elizabeth and Michael.
Or your uncle, an upstanding business manager, using his restaurant as cover to murder kids in his spare time.
Which is probably how Michael got the huge promotion. Gotta love nepotism, baby. Glitch Trap goes on to take over the pizzeria and kill Pig Patch and Orville. 7 sins. Glitch Trap locks them in a box and the video ends. This one is 4 years old, but is only now getting a sequel in the summer. Weird that they took so long, but I won't be watching. You know that for sure. So I guess that wraps it up. FNAF the Musical is one of my favorite pieces of FNAF fan media out there. And there's a lot of that, I can tell you that much. It left this great mark on my childhood, and I'm guessing if you made it this far, it probably has done the same for you. Thank you, Random Encounters, for giving us this amazing series. And if you're never going to use the Orville puppet again, can you send it to me? If you like this video, subscribe to me. It is highly appreciated. And join my Discord. It's a fun place where we talk about guns and drugs and violence. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching.